Lance Sherman, global real estate expert.
Yes.
We're here to talk a little bit about the multifaceted versions of Lance. And you are my New York brother from another mother. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Patty. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about you. You've been in real estate, don't tell me, probably I've been at this office 9 years, 7 years, 8 years?
8 years.
8 years. And so you have a pretty eclectic background. You've done some big things.
Well,
right?
I don't know. That's
I think you
that's
have.
up to perception.
So tell us a little bit about
right.
Before real estate.
You want the rewind it, go way back?
Yeah, go way back.
Elementary? No,
not that far. Maybe post high school. Like, what did you do? Where did you go?
Okay, so I moved to Vegas July of 2000. I came from New York City. So I grew up in Brooklyn, Staten Island, lived in Manhattan as well. I went to high school and college in Manhattan. I was in the performing arts. Not everyone knows that. I think you do, obviously. Yeah, I was a dancer a long time ago, many pounds ago. Working on that too. So yeah, I went to high school for the performing arts. I was a modern dancer, then went on to college at Juilliard, which is a renowned school for dance. And that after college, I kind of wanted to see the world, or at least get out of New York and see what was out there. And I auditioned for a show that was going to be in Las Vegas. The cost of living I found was low. The show was very high-end modern dance. It was right up my alley. And I auditioned, and I didn't get it right away, but I learned that the fortune's in the follow-up, which we use a lot in real estate. Yeah, and I stayed in touch with the director and the casting people, and a few months later, they said, "We have good news. If you're still available, a part just opened up, a spot opened up. We'd love you to come out to Vegas and be a part of the show." It was called Notre Dame de Paris at the Paris Hotel. And I came out, I was super excited. It was my first time living away, completely away from home. And I think they were going to pay me just over $1,000 a week, which for a 21-year-old kid was a decent amount of money.
In Vegas at that time too?
Yeah, it was a decent amount of money. So I worked hard, I learned the whole show, got into the show, and about 2 or 3 weeks into the show, they call a cast meeting, and they pull us all backstage, and they say, "We regret to inform you that the show is closing." And I said, "Oh my goodness, I just packed up my life, moved out here, and the show's done." And I was like, "So what are my options here? Do I go back home and live on my parents' couch and try to find another job or a dance job in New York, or do I just stick it out here and figure it out?" And I basically went all in on Vegas.
All right.
And I decided to stay and slept on another cast member's couch for a few weeks. And did some auditioning, found another show, which took me to China for a few weeks, came back to Vegas again, and got in a show at the Mandalay Bay. It was a show called Storm at Mandalay Bay. Latin dancing, modern, hip-hop, did that for a couple years. And then I got in the dance world what I thought was my big break. I got to work with the artist Celine Dion, and I worked with her, and we put the show together at Caesar's Palace. Actually, the training was in Belgium. We put the show together in Belgium, 47 dancers. Then we brought the show to Caesar's Palace, and we opened it, I want to say that was March of 2003. And I did a little over the first 100 shows with the cast.
Wow.
And it was an amazing experience. The lights, the 4,000 people a night, and it was a really cool
What did
experience.
you love about that at that time? And dance, I mean, it sounds like you were fulfilling your dream, right?
Yeah.
If you went to school for that?
The adrenaline, we were live on Oprah Winfrey. We were on CBS, hosted by Justin Timberlake. I mean,
so cool.
It was very cool. I mean, yes, the people were paying. The main reason they were paying for the tickets was to see Celine Dion. But I'd like to think that we were a nice, well-added bonus.
Accoutrement to the show, right?
Yeah. Not a bonus, I should say. That we were, some people after they saw the show, they realized that we were on the same level as Celine Dion. But I learned that. For dance, it's very hard to make it to a superstar level.
I bet.
And I think that's because dance doesn't come through the lens or through the speaker like a singer or an actor. Dance, you really have to see it live. Although, you know what, I was proven wrong, because had I stayed in dance longer, a few years later it was So You Think You Can Dance and all these reality shows. And but I kind of left the industry before that big boom.
So when you left, I mean, it sounds like you were doing something you loved. You stuck it out in Vegas. It paid off for you in terms of your career as a dancer. When did you realize it was time to do something else, and what did you do?
Well, it's funny. My transition was gradual. I was always been a very social person and a connector, And I think that helps me in my real estate today. But I really wanted to meet the cast members of the other shows on the Strip. And there wasn't really, I'm dating myself a little bit, but there wasn't Facebook yet. You know, I think we just started to get the MySpace.
Was it I was going
This
to
is
say
2003,
MySpace, yeah.
2004. And I was like, how do I meet all the show people? So I decided I talked to a couple nightclub managers, and I said, what if I do an event once a month? I bring all the cast members together. They loved it. And I went backstage with my posters and my flyers, and I invited all the show people, and it wound up being like 100 to 200 cast members of the shows that would get together on a monthly basis. And then some other nightclubs started to catch wind of it and said, wow, we would love this crowd as part of our bigger nightclub, like almost like the filler crowd. Like so then someone came to me with a financial offer. They said, I was just doing it for fun and for networking and
community and all
to
those
build
things.
a community and kind of get to know each other, and maybe even coming out of pocket a little in the beginning. And then another nightclub came to me and said, we'll pay you X, we'll give you free booze, bring all these people to our nightclub, and we want you to do it weekly, not monthly. So I was like, wow, interesting. And this was kind of the beginning of the big Vegas nightclub boom.
Yeah, this sounds very organic. You
Yeah.
were just doing what was natural to you.
Yes. So then that kind of, it was going together with the dancing. And then when I got injured and some other things came up, some personal issues, and I kind of had an in-between phase where I was like, well, I needed to step away from the show for a little bit. Do I, again, go back to New York? Do I kind of heal and get better and then find another show? But like from Celine Dion, there was no other shows on the Strip that really caught my attention. What did catch my attention was the grand opening of this Pure nightclub at Caesar's Palace, which was right next door to Celine Dion's show. And I saw the VIP lines and the bottle service, and I said, this is something that I could really thrive in.
You started your own concierge service as well, right? You
One
did
little
that
step
for a bit?
before that. So I was pitching the nightclub bottle service for a few years, and then we took that concept and said, why don't we do it during the day? So we started to do the day clubs.
Like the pool parties
The
and things
pool
like
parties,
that?
right. So we took that same model and we moved it to the day clubs, and we started selling the cabanas and the chaise lounge chairs and the pool couches. And we basically a similar concept, but maybe even more fun,
Right.
as long as you don't drink too much in the hot sun of Vegas. And I did that from like 2009 to 2010 or so. And then I did one more nightclub, Chateau nightclub, which is coincidentally, it's funny, Vegas has like, it's a small world. You know, Vegas has grown so much in the 25 years I've been here.
Oh, yeah.
But it's like a lot of the trends, they kind of go back and forth. So like I went from Caesars to Caesars, then I circled back, and the nightclub I opened at Paris Hotel, which is where I did the first show that I was here with. We opened up a nightclub called Chateau Nightclub 2011 and 12. And then I got a little bored with that, and I said, why not take my show on the road? Like why sell one venue?
Right.
So from 2004 to 2012, I was always selling one venue or one party. And then I saw a couple people doing it independently, and almost like a travel agent, I could book you at any nightclub you want and make a commission and package it together with, let's say, a club at Caesars on Friday, MGM on Saturday, and Encore on Sunday, which the casino hosts wouldn't do because their
Trying
main
to
goal
keep
was
it
to
in-house.
keep you in-house. But for me, I was independent. I'd take you where I thought you'd have the best time based on your music preferences,
Yep.
and really custom tailor the trip and the entertainment. So I did my independent concierge called Let Loose Vegas. I launched in 2013. It's still thriving today. We've kind of condensed it to just bottle service.
Yeah.
In the beginning, I was doing rooms and limos and just entry to the clubs.
You need a team of people.
But
to
yeah,
do
now that
with
my
real
main
estate.
focus is real estate,
Yeah.
my main focus for Let Loose, I have someone running the business for me, and it's all bottle packages, whether day or night. It's a minimum of about $2,000 package, and you can get all set up.
So you have leverage in that space, plus you're also still, that's a business worth owning, right? Because you don't have to be in it. You've elevated to a point where it sounds like you have your systems and your contacts down, that you have it in a very, kind of like a restaurant. You can have a restaurant, you can have a 30-page menu, or you keep it very concise, right? The quality. So you don't have to spend all your time at that, but that's still entrepreneurial and generating income for you.
Right. And
Nice.
I've learned that success is slow, and it's also, it has surprises. So when I went to real estate school, I remember it was when my wife was first pregnant with our son. That was, let's say, 2015 or so. She was pregnant with Felix, and I saw her watching a lot of HGTV, and we both kind of had a light bulb moment that this might be something that I'd be good at. And I said, you know what, I don't really want to be out in the nightclubs till 2, 3 in the morning. And then right back at the hot pool at 10, 11 a.m. I want to be present for my son. I want to maybe tuck him into sleep some nights. So I jumped into real estate school around 2016 or so. And I had no idea that my license was going to open up a world of opportunities. I just thought
what did you think? You just
I thought I'd
saw
sell some houses in Vegas, I didn't know that I was going to be able to refer business to Dubai one day, or to visit Keller Williams Germany, or go to a vacation in Mexico and pop into, KW in Puerto Vallarta.
Yeah.
Like all these cool network, this worldwide network, which I love networking. Obviously,
That's
it's what
your
I
thing.
did with
when
the performers.
When I think of networking, somebody said, we were at family reunion, and they said, Lance networks, he's got brass balls. He'll go up and talk to anybody. And I said, that's Lance Sherman. You're talking about Lance, right?
Yeah. So I think
that is you.
Yeah, I wasn't shy as a performer on stage, but we didn't take acting at Juilliard. I wish I did, and I may actually take some acting now because Hollywood 2.0 is coming to Vegas. So
really, with the studios
I'm
and everything.
excited about that opportunity. I'm not going to go all in on that, but it would be fun to have a couple small roles.
But you probably
in Hollywood 2.0.
probably have people all over the globe, right? You probably have people in Hollywood who, from your let loose business, that you're able to, hey, they may migrate here. So for real estate, that can only be a win-win.
And I think like when I was a promoter in the clubs, they would send us out into the casino as a 25, 26-year-old guy and say, put 100 girls on your guest list for tonight. Try to sell 3 or 4 tables. You can't be shy. You're walking around to people you don't know on the strip, and you're next to random people handing out funny cards. So you have to be professional and dress nice and present yourself well. And it taught me how to deal with rejection as well, which is something in real estate we deal with a lot. You're not going to get every listing appointment. You're not going to have every person you call on the phone want to talk to you. So that nightclub promoter host experience of give someone my card. A few people would be like, thank you, Lance. We're so excited. We'll see you tonight. And 1 out of 10 people would take my card and flick it in my face and say, get out of here, kid.
Yeah, so it just bounced off you after a while. And great training ground.
Yeah, so it was a good training.
What would you tell somebody who has, because for a while you had the dual career. I remember when you started in real estate.
2017, I jumped into real estate, but I didn't jump in with 2 feet. Maybe I should have.
Well, you had a thriving business,
right?
But
my wife just gave birth, and I had a thriving business. So I'm also a little bit of a perfectionist. It could be a good thing or a bad thing, depending on.
A little analytical.
Yeah, I'm a little analytical. I like that quote. Perfection is a 10-ton shield. It kind of keeps you from flying.
Yeah, don't let perfection get in the way of your progress.
So I struggle with that sometimes, but I am getting better. I am a bit analytical, and I'm forgetting where we were going with that.
That's okay, because we were talking about being dual career, and you were living in both worlds, and you have successfully made the transition to real estate full-time, whereas what you were doing before, you have leverage, and like we said, you still have a business there. So
some agents come into the business, and they set a big goal of 20, 30, 40 units, and they can hit it. If some agents can hit it in their first year. I came in, I wanted to know the contracts, I wanted to know what I was talking about. I didn't want to fake it till I make it. I wanted to really make it, right? So I set a goal of like maybe 12 deals my first year, and I would keep doing my nightlife concierge. And I went to every broker's class. I went to every Ignite class. I went to Bold, and I got the training I needed to feel confident. Because you don't go on stage and just make up the dance steps, right?
Don't practice.
We took 6 months to train and put together an hour-and-a-half show. So I knew that going in. I wanted the prep. I wanted to have the knowledge, and also, but you don't have to have all the knowledge. What I tell newer agents now is maybe I did a little bit too much education in the beginning, because you surround yourself with a good brokerage where you have a broker with a lot of experience, coaches, and you can lean on those people.
Right.
Which I did. I had some great people around me.
That was your journey to figure it out.
But I wanted to create my own brand, and it took me a little longer, but that's the way I did it.
You said something, success doesn't happen fast. And I don't know about you, but I'm a high D. Time is important to me. I want things to be done quickly. And it's hard to have that infinite mindset, right? You make incremental progress every day. We never become the best, we become better.
Right.
We become better at what we're doing incrementally every day. So when did you know it was time, real estate, to transition? Now you were full-time. Did it happen gradually? And I love that you set a goal.
Yeah.
You got in, all right, I'm going to set a goal, and We'll see what it takes to hit it, right? A lot of people come in flailing. I ask them, what do you
Mhm.
want to make in a year? I don't know, I just want training. Well, you need to have a target, right?
Yeah.
When did you know that real estate, you were in it full time and you were gonna pump the brakes on the other business?
I kind of, when I came in and I was in school, I could tell right away that this is a six-figure business, and I gave myself about 3 years to get there.
Mm-hmm.
So, like I said, I did 12 units my first year, and I was only showing up to the office maybe twice a week, but I had my own office for the other business. And then, one good thing a great thing I like about Keller Williams is there's a lot of culture. So when I was in the office my 2 days a week, someone said to me, why don't you rent a desk in the atrium or bullpen, depending on what office you're in, what you call it. And I said, why do I need a desk there for $50 a month when I have my own office in, like, near Industrial Road? Like, he's like, because you'll be here, you'll be around us, you're gonna grow your business. That's your main goal, isn't it? And I was like, yeah, it is. So I booked the $50 a month desk. And then 6 months later, I saw my numbers go up. And then I said, well, what would happen if I booked a $500 a month office?
Commit to yourself,
yeah,
right?
I was like,
Yeah.
commit to myself. And then what would happen, like you said, with leverage, if I brought on an admin part-time to help me with some of the paperwork, what would that do for my business? And then I learned the leverage that is talked about a lot in these rooms.
Well, and that's really in any business, right? I mean, one of the things I've enjoyed in being in business with you is seeing your journey. You're relentless. It's not always easy. It's not always pretty. Sometimes we have to do it ugly and we have to support one another, right? And when the highs are high, it's great, but when it's low, it can be very challenging. One of the things I know from the time you came to this office was hiring people, and we've kind of shared that journey. You have a coach, and you've done well. You've gone from entrepreneurial to purposeful in that arena. A lot of people tap out. And what I mean by that is they stay with their natural abilities, their natural style, and then when they need to grow, it's easier if I do it. It's easier if I do it. So tell us a little bit about your leverage journey. You have a really great person in your world right now.
Yes, I just made a great hire, operations manager, Becky, and she's doing really well, helping me build on the models and systems that I've already built.
Yep.
My big struggle is going from paper to electronic. I like a lot of paper.
And that desk you brought over, oh my gosh, I remember.
Yeah,
Okay.
I liked a lot of paper when I was in that world, and I like to feel it, touch it, and the way the world is moving, technology, I still use paper, and I think some clients appreciate a nice brochure. However, we need to work well digitally. One of my best years so far in real estate was COVID. Who thought? Everyone got scared and started to panic that it's going to be really hard, and it wound up being one of my best years. And that was because I accepted and embraced Zoom.
Yeah.
Video calls.
You had no choice.
No
choice,
and
right?
Facebook Lives and really getting into more of the digital stuff, which I think is also what I'm most excited about in real estate.
That's one of my questions.
Yeah.
What are you most excited about in real estate?
I'm excited to see how people change the way they live and how technology changes the way we live. I've been thinking about this a lot lately, Patty, and it's if the cars are self-driving, do we really need a 3 or 4 car garage? If we have a robot limos driver and a robot chef, do we need a little closet to charge them up overnight?
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of like some Elon Musk futuristic type stuff, but the future's right around the corner.
Well, there's a great book about, especially with AI, right? Technology is moving faster and faster. I think when ChatGPT first came out, the numbers were something like 200,000 people were on it. Now there's like 200 million people. Now it's like 260 million people per day on it. Whereas when you think back to, I'm going to date myself, when the VCR came out, it was VCR and beta. Which one beta took a dump and VCR went for a long time until the CD came. Like the time in between was longer. Now technology is moving so fast, it's becoming shorter and shorter for the world to adapt to it. Right? No longer. I remember I was working, I was an asset manager at a mortgage company, and we had to keep moving offices because we used to have these non-conforming files, mortgages that were like 30 or 20 years old, and so we had to keep these files with us, and every time somebody called, you'd have to get up, go find the file, and look and write notes, and the gentleman I worked for had proprietary software, and he created a scanning system. And people thought he was crazy. He goes, we're not moving anymore. We're going to scan all these files. And he paid people overtime. And I thought he was a little crazy, but I was into it. Everybody else said, no way, it's never going to work. He was way ahead of his time. And sure enough, I remember the first time I was servicing a loan, and I was talking to somebody, and I got to pull the file up online. I was addicted.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so it's interesting you mentioned that, because there are a lot of changes that are happening that we don't even know yet.
I was in a model home in Summerlin the other day, and the laundry room was mostly cabinets, and it only had room for one appliance. And I was like, oh, and I looked closer, and I'm like, oh, this one unit washes and dries the clothes. Like,
Amazing.
so the laundry room is changing. Like the big water heaters, now we're moving to the tankless water heaters. So you need less room for that in the garage. And the way the homes are evolving quickly, I would say slow down before you sign up for solar. Sorry to my solar friends. However, the equipment on your roof is probably going to look like a big box TV.
That's a tough one.
In just a few years.
That's
Who
a tough
knows
one.
how that technology is going to evolve in the next 5, 6 years.
I'd like to believe it's going to turn into like a 4x4 panel that'll be on the side of my house facing west.
And
that's
do the
it.
whole deal.
And
Yep.
nobody has to go on my roof, ruin the
And
tiles.
charge your car, your house,
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting to see.
Okay, so you're excited about technology and real estate just in general. Okay, and so, and again, kudos to you on the leverage piece. That definitely didn't happen
Well,
overnight.
thank you, actually.
Well,
you
my
helped me a
pleasure.
lot. You helped
My
me a lot
pleasure.
with the leverage. Being slow to hire, and
Yeah.
I'm still struggling with the quick to fire. I haven't had to do that. However, I do believe in that expression. Slow to hire. 3, sometimes 4 interviews
Yep.
before we make the hire.
As hard as it is, because it's like the layers of the onion, you have to do it ahead of time. Better to find out then
Yep.
than when somebody starts, because I always say every time they come in, it's a test.
hmm
The first time, are they wide-eyed and bushy-tails, have the eye contact? Next time they come in, are they still that same person? Third time, are they getting a little too comfortable? Like everything, there's a whole process, and you've done really well, and at times it has its challenges, but I see you getting better at it, right?
Yeah,
Every
I'm
time you
working
do a
on
bit better.
inspect what you inspect what you expect, right? Like I could do better with that at the 30, the 60, the 90 day.
Yep.
And I'm getting better at it. However, it's easy to kind of say, oh, I have leverage now, so I can go run off and do this. But you have to kind of circle back and we're doing now daily morning team meetings, weekly team meetings, and I'm not micromanaging. I'm letting go a lot more. However, we're doing a consistent check-in, at least once a day.
And they're probably quick, right?
Yeah, they
It's
can
not a
be
therapy
quicker.
session.
They can definitely be quicker.
Well, good for you. Yeah, because that's how you're going to continue to grow your business. Let's talk a little bit about business and your investment. You recently, and I say Lance Worldwide, Lance Global, you recently took a trip to Dubai. I know that's been on your list for some time.
Yeah.
You did it. You were very purposeful about it. You went intentionally, met some intentional people. Tell us about what that trip was like and what you got out of it, and tell us everything.
Okay, cool. One expression I learned at Keller Williams was people grow into the conversations you create around them, right?
Yeah.
So I have a client from the concierge business that comes about twice a year, and we've become very good friends over the last 10 years. And I just mentioned it to him once on the Strip. We were hanging out. I said, have you ever thought about picking up a condo here in Vegas, either to use or to rent out? And you're here twice a year for like 3 weeks at a time. He said, no, Lance, it's a little bit too far. I live in South Africa. It's a long journey. I might go from 2 trips a year to 1. However, I'm moving my company to Dubai in the next year. So if I buy a condo outside of South Africa, it's going to be in Dubai. And I had just been at a conference, and I had just met a great agent from Dubai, and I was easily able to be that connector
Lance
that
the
I love to
connector.
be. And I introduced him on WhatsApp. A week later, he was in Dubai, and 12 hours later, he had under contract on a $1+ million
I
condo.
remember you had a nice
Yeah,
referral check
yeah,
out of that. Mhm.
Yeah, but I didn't do it for that.
No, but I
I
remember
love
that
to
time.
connect the dots and build trust and connect people, and I was able to help him just because I'm constantly going to the events and the conferences and vetting people. I'm not only looking for a check. And I think that's why I've been able to be successful for 25 years in Vegas and 8+ years in real estate, is because it's not short-sighted. It's being able to walk away from a check today to make 10 more checks tomorrow. Being able to say no, that's something I've learned a lot at this company, and I'm still improving in. I'm a yes man. I love to please. I love to perform on stage. I love the applause. I love the 5-star reviews. But I got to get better, and I'm getting better at saying no.
To set boundaries,
Yeah.
and some of that's from experience. You know when to say no.
Yes, and putting family first, God, family, business. that's another thing I really enjoy about Keller Williams.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about, so Dubai, you went, you not only connected people, right? That was years ago, but you also went intentionally and met a whole group of people, or?
Well, yeah, like I said, what you focus on expands.
Yeah.
And the woman I sent the referral to
Oh, that
invited
was it.
me to her 50th birthday.
Got it, yeah.
And it happened to be the same week as an international real estate conference. And with the blessing of my wife, she said, okay. I was surprised. She let me go.
Yeah.
Got to get the wife's permission.
Yeah.
And I was able to go to a dream city that I wanted to experience and do it for a business
Wow.
trip and build my network and learn about the market there and the architecture there. And Vegas is ahead of the times in a lot of ways, but in some ways we need to step it up.
Yeah, you did
We
a
need to
nice
step it
little
up.
recap of the things you learned from Dubai, right?
Mhm.
That we can all learn a lesson from. What was the one thing on that list that stands out
Oh,
when you
there-
think about Dubai and them being ahead in terms of service? Things are clean.
So in Dubai, they're building and selling things off plan. We're here, we do a little bit of dirt, ground up construction.
Mhm.
However, they're building high rises one after another, and people are buying them like cash, 3,
Oh.
4, 5 years before completion. That's how forward thinking they are.
Right.
The investors and the builders,
Mhm.
that they're building units for the people that they know are coming down the road. They're really forward thinking.
Well, and that's really a destination where people want to be, so that's kind of very,
Yeah.
seems on point. They know it's going to go. It's kind of like Vegas back in the day. They would just build houses all over because they knew they'd
Yeah.
be eaten up because we were the hot place to be at the time.
Yeah, and not to be doom and gloom. However, I think my friends in the hospitality industry in Vegas, we need to think long term again. We're getting a little short-sighted, nearsighted, looking to get a customer to spend as much as they can in one weekend, gambling, nightlife, shopping at Louis Vuitton, whatever you have it. But there's a long-term mindset, a long-term hospitality that we need to keep, that we used to have. And I think that's something to be
Interesting.
aware of.
Does it feel more transactional? I mean, is it
A little
is
bit
that what you're saying?
transactional, and I think, when Vegas was the only Vegas, and it is, there is only one Vegas. We have the entertainment capital of the world. Now we're going to become the sports capital of the world. However, we're not the only gaming anymore. You got casinos in Boston,
Everywhere.
Florida. New York City was just approved for gaming.
Yeah.
If you want to go global, what I learned while I was in Dubai, just outside of Dubai, it's called Ras Al Khaimah. It's about 45 minutes away from Dubai. Wynn is building a resort. MGM is building 3 resorts closer to Dubai, and they're going for their gaming license. So the Middle East is going to have gaming. Now Japan is going for a gaming license. So there's going to be, in the next 10 years, there's going to be a lot of worldwide gaming destinations.
At a much higher level
Ev-
than some of these little pockets like in Boston, and I know in Connecticut, like you got Foxwood.
Which I love that we're diversifying and going into more of the Hollywood film, not Hollywood, the film industry, which will be the Vegas film industry. And I was, not to be all doom, what I really did like to see was when the strip shut down for COVID and the casinos shut down for, how long was it, a month or 2?
About that.
The city kept moving, right? The real estate kept selling.
Oh yeah, we saw
And-
a drop, and then we saw a huge
And,
spike.
and that was positive for me because it made me know that we are now becoming a metropolitan city. And we have more than just gaming and hospitality.
It is. It's moving in the
tourism.
right. It's moving in the right direction. We've come a long way. I moved out here in '91. It was all gaming and construction, and I remember them always talking about, oh, we're going to get a basketball team. We're going to get this. And I never thought it would happen. And now we're this cosmopolitan city. It's going to be a sports capital, just like any other major city. It's very favorable. We're a great place to live, and the sun is 360 days a year. I mean, how can you beat Vegas? However, I know what you're saying in terms of
Yeah.
other things popping up.
Yeah, there's some competition is good, like
Well,
anything else.
Competition is good, and gaming's pretty. People like to gamble. It's a moneymaker.
Mhm.
Let's segue into family a little bit. You've been married. Your
One of my
wife
favorite
is delightful. You have a little baby girl, and Felix, you become quite the soccer aficionado, right?
I am
Tell us-
officially a soccer dad.
Yeah, a soccer dad. You're
Yeah.
in it.
My wife is from Germany. Some people told me long distance wouldn't work, but we proved them wrong.
Aw,
And we've been married now coming up on 12 years.
congratulations.
And we have a son who's 8 and a daughter who's 3. And I love it.
How do you balance it all? I mean, how are you doing it all? Because especially with the babies getting older, Felix is very involved in soccer, and that's only become more. You only have like 15 or 16 summers really with them. So how are you managing a big business and putting family first? I mean,
so circling back to the perfectionist side of me, I learned from my coach to make a perfect week. And it's a schedule where, if you're not familiar with a perfect week, it's a schedule where you set your week up for success. How many hours of marketing, how many hours of negotiating, how many hours of contracts, when are you going to be showing homes, when are you going to be doing family time, dinners, lunches. And on that calendar, right from the beginning, about 5-6 years ago, Sunday I marked off as family day. And a lot of realtors feel like, I got to do open houses, I have to show on Sunday. And I've managed to keep Sunday a family day. Now, Patty, if you referred me a friend and it was a buyer, they're only in town for one weekend, family day can be moved, but it's not happening consistently. It's happening maybe 10% of the Sundays where I need to work, and I'll shift it to a Saturday or a Monday. But I've set Sunday up as a family day, and I'm also home most nights by 6 p.m. And we have dinner as a family together at the table, and that's very important to us.
Is your phone on at that time? How are you doing with your?
No,
okay,
no
good.
phone. Phone is on airplane mode or outside of the bedroom, and no phone at the dinner table ever.
So Lance, what has that done for you, setting those boundaries, especially because, this is a business where you can work 24/7.
Yes.
We have a saying around here, it's God, family, and then business. And I always tell people it's not about who you believe in or if you believe in anything. It's that spiritual side. It's the order in which those things happen. People can get sucked up in working. I know agents who answer their phone at 8 or 9 o'clock at night, and I think, wow, that's a growth opportunity to set a boundary. What has that done for you and your family? Again, as you were saying,
I'm not going to BS you, Patty. I'm not perfect. I
nobody
like the
is.
expression that I'm perfectly imperfect.
Okay.
There's been nights where I'm writing offers. I put the kids to bed,
Yeah.
and I'm at the kitchen
Sure.
counter, right at the island, writing offers 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night, doing Zoom with people, 3 hours earlier or 9 hours ahead. It's not as wild as the nightlife hours.
Okay.
However, I think it seems much easier to me because I came from a world where your phone might ring at 2 in the morning. So now if it rings at 9:30 at night, it's a little more doable.
Right.
But I'm not. Again, what's the word I'm looking for? The expression. I'm teaching people how to treat me.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yes.
I'm teaching people how to treat me. So if you call me, Patty, like right now, I left my phone in the other room, and you know what? It could be $1 million buyer on the phone. They can wait. I'm here talking to you.
It's like 45
I'm present,
minutes.
right?
Right.
For my clients. And if they get my voicemail, which most people don't wait for the voicemail, but the voicemail says, if you're calling after business hours or on Sunday, you will be your call will be returned the next business day. So I'm setting them up. I'm letting them know. And of course, if it's urgent, shoot me a text. But I think people respect those boundaries.
They do. It hasn't been a problem, and you haven't missed any business, I'm guessing, right?
No,
and
I
you're
don't think
allowed
so.
to
I
have
don't
that.
think so.
That's a hard thing.
You know,
in
yeah,
this business.
of course, you do kick yourself because it's funny in real estate world. They say if you want to get busy, book a vacation,
So true.
right?
Yeah.
And there's been times where I'm like I've waited and saved and finally got to a nice, beautiful destination, and someone says, that house you showed me 2 weeks ago, we want to make an offer.
Okay.
And let's say maybe I was in between admins, and I put the family to bed, and I'm at the lounge bar typing up an offer
Yeah.
in Mexico at 2 in the morning.
But that's
right?
real estate,
It
right?
happens. It does happen. But you know what? The joy I get when I see when I hand the people the keys, a few weeks later,
Yeah.
the joy I get when they invite me over for a barbecue, and I'm like, you know what? I'm getting a little emotional here. But if I didn't take
Aw.
time out of my vacation to help them get that house, they wouldn't have gotten the house.
Right.
So sometimes there is a little bit of give and take.
Well, you understand
Yeah.
when that needs to be the give and take, but it can't be constant interruptions all the time.
No,
It sounds like
definitely.
most of the time. Yeah, you know when you
Definitely
have
not.
when it has to
Yeah.
be a priority.
Yeah, and one thing I do love about being my own business owner, and of course now having leverage, is that I can schedule my showings around my son's soccer games whenever possible.
So important.
That's a big
Because
one
you
for
know
me.
that schedule too, and that's
Yeah.
something I think people just in business and in life. I talk to people. Oh, I haven't had a vacation. Oh, we haven't planned it. I have my vacations planned usually at the beginning of the year, and when my world revolves around it.
Yeah.
Because you get to live the life that you want. So the fact, like Felix's soccer games, those are non-negotiable, right?
Yeah,
Easy.
like a championship game, yeah.
Oh yeah,
That's
well,
not-
easy. It's easy to do when your why is tied to it. Those are the
Right.
most important
Yeah.
meetings with
If
your
I was
family.
working, let's say, a 9 to 5
Yeah.
type job, and and there's whatever 9 to 5 wouldn't affect with Saturday, but you know what I mean. If I
Yeah.
had a government job or something
Yeah.
like that, I wouldn't be able to be present for those.
Yeah,
those
when my
events.
kids were little, I was able to make every game. If I wasn't, I was traveling somewhere for something. However, I always considered those the most important meetings I'm ever going to have, because when I'm 90 years old, those are the people who are going to be around me. That's the greatest investment, are my children, and that was a non-negotiable. And then Wendy Papasan said, you only get them for about 15, 16 summers, and I went, oh my gosh, right?
Mhm.
And it's true, because my kids are older now, so keep up that good work, because those are the
Yeah.
moments that matter.
And what I've learned to do, I think my clients would say about me is that, one, I'm good at improvising, and number two is I'm good at finding opportunity everywhere. You know, so
Oh, I
if
believe
if
that.
if I make it where I'm going to be present at 4 or 5 practices a week, I've decided to make the soccer community of Las Vegas part of my business, right?
Yeah, why not?
So I've branded water bottles and I've made a 10 by 10 tent, and
Yeah.
I'm the soccer dad. Like, embrace it, and if you're going to be there, like, I can do both, you know. So it's a win-win, right? I love that expression, win-win.
Yeah.
You know,
and
so I can be
opportunities
present for
are
my
everywhere.
son, and I can keep my business moving forward.
Yeah. And then, you're seen as the cool dad too, because all the kids on the team probably really envy Felix for you being out there and having the water bottles and things
I
like
hope
that.
so. I hope so.
You're making an impression on them
Yeah.
as well.
Although sometimes I run the music and they don't like my music.
Well, you're not that cool, Lance. And so what have the kids taught you? I mean, having children and life, like, what have the kids taught you about just business and life? What have you learned from them?
I would say what I've learned from my kids and my family that also helps me in my business is to be a better listener. I'm still working on that. I'm still, it's a constant grind.
Mm-hmm.
However, being a listener helps me be a better communicator. You know, we both have our fans of Phil Jones.
Yep.
You know, knowing what to say, how to say it, being a better communicator. So I would say listener number 1, communicator number 2, and in real estate, my clients want me to be a guide. They don't want me to be a salesman. I don't think anyone wants me to be a salesman. I'm not going to force you
tell,
to.
or constantly giving advice.
No, I'm not going
Yeah.
to force you to buy a house you don't want. And my job's to guide you to help you make the best decision. So it goes hand in hand with being a good dad. I need to guide my children to help them make good decisions. And I think it kind of goes well together. So a listener, communicator, and a good guide is what my kids are teaching me every day, and also helps me in my business.
Yeah, it sounds like it's helping your.
And actually negotiating as well. These kids are some negotiators.
Oh, yeah. Well, and they've been watching you, so they're probably really good at it.
Yeah, my son is quite the negotiator.
Yeah.
I'm constantly writing counteroffers back and forth.
Yeah, well,
Like,
welcome
do
to
this.
parenthood,
Yeah, but
right?
what if we do this instead? I don't know. How about you do this and then I'll do this? And
Well, and that's the beauty of having kids.
but Dad, last week you said if I do this, we can do that.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I'm like, oh my goodness.
They don't let you forget anything.
Yeah.
You say something, boy, it's like they carry around this
Oh,
little
yeah.
black bag with them. But yeah, it helps you become a better leader, is what I'm hearing. You just
And
know
going back to
everything.
the phone. The phone is important to. I need to remember more to shut it off and be present. Because when your 3-year-old starts to say, Dada, enough phone.
Yeah.
Dada, enough phone.
Well, it's accountability partner.
Yeah. So keeping it in the car or keeping it in,
Yeah.
you know,
And if it-
airplane mode whenever possible at
And
home.
it's kind of like if I have to get in touch with anybody in my life, my people who clean my house, my dry cleaner, anybody medically, I can't call them any hour, right?
No.
So there's a lot of truth in that, and that once you learn that, you're allowed to have boundaries and have your life. Otherwise, people, right, will teach you. They will treat you the way you teach them to treat you.
100%.
Okay. Anything we didn't talk about before we wrap up here?
Oh, let's see. We went over family, business, dancing. Went over quite a bit.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you before the lightning round. What does wealth mean to you these days? Has it changed over time for you?
Yes, yes. When I moved to Vegas, wealth was jackpots.
Okay.
Wealth was instant gratification. Today, wealth, I know, is a slow grind.
Mm-hmm.
It's smart decisions, repeated, patience. I didn't know any of that when I moved here. You know, real estate has taught me, especially real estate investing. Now my wife and I we're up to 3 houses, and
Nice.
the goal is to get to at least 5 and maybe more. I'd love to have 1 commercial property. So, and for anyone that's thinking about investing, one great way to do it is I tell people, you don't have to buy your dream house as your first house.
Mm-hmm.
Get into a house, right? Get into a condo, get into a townhouse. Because 2 or 3 years later, that can become your first rental
It's your
property.
equity builder.
And guess what?
Mhm.
Even though you didn't do it on purpose, it has a primary interest rate on it,
Mm-hmm.
which is lower than an investor interest rate. You know, so that's a great way to do it. And we kind of stumbled into our first investment like that, and it's a great investment properties, making
So
over
the
$1,000 a month.
long-term wealth, not
Yeah.
that instant, I'm gonna hit the jackpot, right?
No,
It's
yeah,
less
it's
of a gamble, it's more strategic.
Yeah, and also realtors don't have a 401k. We don't have a pension. So if you're a realtor, in my opinion, the best way to save for retirement and thrive in retirement is to have investment properties that one day will be paid off, that will cash flow, insane amount of money.
Right.
And you don't have to, if you don't want to manage it, you don't have to manage it.
Somebody said to me once, somebody's getting up every day to go to work to pay your debt.
hmm
And so,
Yeah, you have the appreciating asset, the depreciating loan,
yeah,
and the cash flow.
and
It's
that's
like,
a big delta.
it's win-win-win.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you ready for the lightning round?
Okay.
All right.
Lightning. My
Lightning
son is
round.
fast, but let's see, lightning.
Let's
okay.
see if you can live up to Felix's standards here in terms of time. I'm going to
Okay.
ask you a couple of questions. 10 seconds. You got 10 seconds to answer it.
Per question or total?
Per question. We're going to
Okay.
move. That's why it's lightning round. Ready?
Let's go.
Favorite off the strip spot in Vegas?
Tivoli Village.
Early bird or night owl?
Both.
Your go-to personal motto or favorite quote?
I like a goal without a plan is just a wish.
Dream travel destination anywhere in the world?
We just checked off Dubai. I'm gonna mention 3. I want to get to Australia, Japan, and Greece.
First concert ever attended?
Growing up in New York, we did more Broadway shows.
Okay.
So I don't remember which was first. It was either Tap Dance Kid or Annie.
Hidden talent most people don't know about you?
18 years old, Carnival Barker in Coney Island.
Carnival Barker?
Yeah. It's $1 to win, $1 to play. Step up,
Oh.
step in. You're gonna get
Oh my God, I totally can see you doing that. Perfect.
you and the lady. Come on in. Let's get it.
Favorite and so it began in Coney Island. I didn't know that story.
Yeah.
Favorite food?
Ooh, I love it all. Steak and lobster.
Beach, mountains, or city?
City followed by beach.
All right, the big one. If
Not
you-
the mountains. You like the cold.
I
That's
know,
not me.
I know. We learned that a couple of years
Yeah.
ago. If you had 10 extra hours a week, how would you spend them?
10 hours extra a week. How would I spend them? I can split it up.
Whatever you want. It's
Okay.
10 hours in a week, an hour a day all at
Date
once.
night with the wife. Date day with each kid individually, so they each get some
Nice.
quality time. And then maybe a little me time, a massage, spa, or a round of golf.
Okay, golf. I didn't know that. All right, well, it's been a pleasure, Lance Sherman. Thanks for coming on
Thank
the
you,
show.
Patty. Thank you for having
Wish
me.
you always the best. Can't wait to continue to see you soar.
Thank you.
Love you lots, my friend.